Good afternoon, everybody. Warm welcome to the session here on the stage about chemical recycling. One of the important technology to keep the carbon and the plastic in the loop. And let me here welcome on stage the people who are the experts on that from various angles of the topic. And I would like to start with welcoming Saskia Hornivius from Eastman. Saskia, please come. I will introduce them when they are on the stage here. So the next one is Haupts from Carboliq. Koch from LyondellBasell. And Nico Janssen from Object Carpet. And you might ask yourself, why is this sequence? The sequence has nothing to do with experience in chemical recycling. And at the end, that is Nico, because he is a user of chemical recyclates. And that is the reason why we have them in this sequence here on stage. So let me start to introduce you shortly. Saskia Hornivius, she drives Eastman's engagement strategy for the circular platform across the value chain. And she is market development manager for Eastman Circular Solution, and she oversees circular packaging and supports the so-called molecular recycling projects, how you call the chemical recycling, in the US and in Europe. So, and Eastman, I think it's well known, even if not here at the K show. It will be in 3 years. Eastman is here, I heard. And Eastman, global chemical company, well known for fibers and plastics, and has experience in molecular recycling. So very warm welcome again to you, Saskia. Thank you. The next one that is Haupts. He is the CEO of Carboliq. I would say in former times a startup, now it's a growing company. And Carboliq has established a low temperature pyrolysis for mixed plastic waste, and that includes even plastic waste materials for waste-derived fuel. So he has already experience. He has also experience in chemical recycling. So welcome here on stage, Christian. Daniel is a builder of molecular recycling. You have a special title for your technology, MoReTech, and you will tell us about that. So Daniel is a general manager of LyondellBasell Polyolefin GmbH here in Germany, and the head of the manufacturing sites, 2 of them very close together, south of Cologne in Wesseling and in Knapsack. And LyondellBasell is very well known as a leading plastic manufacturer with a big booth here on the K show. And at Wesseling, Daniel and LyondellBasell have laid the foundation stone last autumn for a 50,000 tons chemical recycling plant. So he will tell us about the project and what's the future of the project and how it's going. And then we move to the user. So we are, everybody asks who will use chemical recyclates. We have one user for a longer time. That is, first applause for Daniel. So sorry. Thank you very much. Sorry. Nico, you are Nico Janssen, is Business Development Director at Object Carpet GmbH. And you can, you see from the name, it has something to do with carpets. Object Carpet is a German company specializing in the production and distribution of high-quality carpets, including wall-to-wall carpets, carpet tiles, and custom-sized rugs. And its business is connected with plastic recyclates, including chemical recyclate, in particular polyamide. So we have various substances here on stage, PET, polyolefins, and polyamide. So that is a broad spectrum, and I think we can talk more or less about everything here. I would like to start with some questions, and I would like to invite you here. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We have mics, and we can come to you, and you can also ask the question to the panelists here, and they are happy to answer your question. You can interrupt me at any time. In case there is no question from your side, I would like to start with some prepared questions in the meantime. And the first question goes to Saskia, to you. Eastman, as we said, is an expert on molecular recycling of PET and has already practical and commercial experience in that. My question is, what is specific with your depolymerization process that you call molecular recycling?
Thank you for the question. All right. So we named it molecular recycling because that's actually what we do. We're using methanol to break down hard-to-recycle plastic waste to its molecular level. In this process, before we enter the polyester into our recycling facility, we also have a quite deliberate sorting step up front so that a really high percentage of polyester actually enters the facility. In the facility, there's around 10 purification steps that allow us to really have the highest purity of monomers at the end of the recycling. And what is quite fortunate for us, we already have polymer lines existing in Kingsport, Tennessee. So the monomers that we create in our methanolysis or our molecular recycling are then fed back into our existing polymer lines. So that allows us to create our legacy products, which are PET, but there are also some more specialized copolyesters, and we can prove that there's a virgin equivalency. So basically, we're able to take material that is difficult for a mechanical recycler to work with, and we're able to turn that into virgin-like material again, which is safe to use for food, for cosmetics, and for health.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that you have a high yield in your depolymerization process. Can you quantify that? Because you are 250 experts, and they would like to learn a little bit about competition.
Yes, sure. So when we're looking at our yield, like I said, we do have a sorting step before anything goes into our actual chemical recycling process. So we have a really high polyester part that goes into the machine, and our yield is above 90%.
Great, that's a lot. So if everybody here in the room has more than 90%, please raise your hands, and you can get an exchange afterwards. I would like to move one step to your neighbor, and we move from PET to plastic waste in general. My question to you, Christian, Carboliq is a pioneer in low temperature, high tolerance chemical recycling. So you can work with a lot of different material. Which unique benefits does the Carboliq process offer?
Low temperature means below 400 degrees. Below 400 degrees means no coking. And coking is one of the major issues in pyrolysis processes. So if we can prohibit coking, we can prohibit the formation of pyrolysis gases, and we have a high liquid yield. So this is basically the concept that we follow. We run this in a stirred tank reactor in a continuous process, and we can, depending on the caloric value of the feedstock and the polymer content in the feedstock, the efficiency rate or the yield is up to 80% in terms of with regards to the polymers, but we can handle about 30% of biomass as feedstock content, and so the overall yield will be lower then.
Yeah. What are the needed purities? Sometimes people say for polyolefins I need a very smart pre-sorting and sorting everything out where oxygen is in, and any things like chlorine or so should not be in. What is the needed purity for your process?
The decomposition of plastics is always dependent on temperature, on retention time, and on mixing. And if I can control mixing and temperature, I can give the material a higher retention time. I think this is the key for running mixed plastics. So a plastic mixture that enters our system will given the time to be decomposed, so that the molecules that evapor and will be condensed after that as an oil, or after the product as a product, will be origin from all kinds of plastics, and not only from the polyolefins that we generate.
Okay, so and you can work with all with impurities, like you have, for example, in these what I call the waste-derived fuel plastics material.
Yes, this is no defined fraction. It's a waste-derived fuels comes from post-consumer waste, as well as from industry waste. It comes from all kinds of origins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very well. So we move one step further. And by the way, last question, Christian. What is the volume, the actual volume of your plant in Enningerlohe? What your annual volume? What you can offer in?
We run the plant in Enningerlohe at a capacity of about 1,000 tons per year.
Yeah.
But as it is non-economical to run a 1,000-ton plant, we run it in campaigns. So we get used for material testing. We get paid for material testing in large scale. Up to 40 tons can be processed in this plant, and with the results, you can do calculations for investments in such a technology.
Okay. Yeah. So 1,000 tons. Keep that in mind, because now we have a factor 50. Daniel is a step ahead in the volume that is built. Tell us about the MoReTec technology and the plant that is in the process of being built, and you know the time when it should run and start. Please, the floor is yours, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. As you said in the beginning, foundation was last year in September, in autumn, and I joined the team in February this year, and we make good progress. So 2 milestones for me. One was one day we had about 150 trucks to pour the foundation of this whole project. That was a major milestone, how we also organize logistics for this project. Very good progress. Second milestone was a couple of weeks ago, we received permits that we can do above ground construction. So since then, really it got even more busy now on the construction side to build this 50,000 ton plant. You asked for the capacity, it's 50,000 tons. So we're making really good progress there. At the same time, beside construction, we are preparing the team, because they have to be trained to operate the plant in a safe way. We have to prepare the plant for a safe startup. And that will all keep us busy this year and next year. And then we are going to prepare for ramp up of production in 2027. So we expect first really commercial volumes for customers in 2027 to be delivered.
Are you already sold out? Because that some people book it in ahead. If I look at the PPWR, there is some need for some material, in particular in the food packaging, that needs high quality, so virgin quality, but has to be from PCR. So
yeah, you're asking the operational guy and not the commercial guy. But we all know that supply of recycled polyethylene, polypropylene is shorter than demand. So what we see is a very high demand. I know that our commercial teams are very busy and getting more busy in interacting with potential customers. I'm always happy to see customers also on site, because that's an opportunity for me to show this project. And I cannot tell you that we are sold out yet, but the majority of the available capacity is already sold. So it's a very high demand that we are seeing, very high interest of original brand owners.
Yeah. You are not you said you are not the commercial guy, but you know a little bit about the investment, that the total investment for LyondellBasell, and there was also some public subsidies, and even the chancellor, the former one, was with the foundation laying process at Wesseling. Can you tell us a little bit about the investment?
Yeah, so unfortunately I was not there for that event, but looking maybe to the technology, because that is also an important part. From my point of view, where are the factors that this plant will give us a competitive advantage? The first one is that we are converting post-consumer plastic waste, which is not easy to recycle. The easy to recycle stuff can go into mechanical recycling. So we are using difficult to recycle plastic waste. That's the first one. So we are closing a gap actually with that plant, where normally this fraction of post-consumer waste would go into incineration or thermal recovery. The second advantage is an in-house developed catalyst that also allows that we are running the process at very low temperatures. And beside good yields, the other advantage is that we can run the whole process with energy from electrical power. So we not only have a recycled product, but we also have green electrical power. So the product is not only recycled, it comes also with a very low carbon footprint. And the last really big advantage is this plant is not standing alone somewhere. It's integrated in our site. So beside the pie oil that we are feeding then directly into our crackers, we can also use the gas phase and also feed it into crackers and make raw materials out of it again. And that will increase the yield to at least 80%. Maybe it will be even higher, but 80% for a waste that is not easy to recycle. And that's a major milestone. I guess that's a competitive advantage that we will then definitely see.
Okay, yeah, thank you. We will follow up later in the next round. Nico, you are somebody who uses recyclates, but also in chemical recyclates. And as I had a look into the business model of Object Carpet, I found that Object Carpet and you design carpets for circularity. Can you explain a little bit the business model, what you are doing, and the reason why you need recyclates and why you need chemical recyclates?
Yeah, thank you. I think many of you have never really looked into the... Does it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
Many of you don't really know the composition of an average carpet, but if you take an average carpet just in your office, you will find more than 10 different material types in that composition, which makes the carpet industry a highly linear industry because the recyclability of today's solutions is very, very low because of that difficult cocktail of different type of materials. And that's why we said 5 years ago we are going to completely redesign our products and our production process. And we have brought back our carpet design to only 2 polymer types. So we use PET as face fiber, and we use polyamide 6 as face fiber, and the polyester as the backing of the carpet. Mm-hmm. So we go back from a cocktail of 10 to 15 material types to only 2 material types. And we call that the duo material for obvious reasons. So that's the starting point, making sure that you redesign your products to make it suitable for the next recycling step. And then, well, the connection with the people here in the discussion today is not only on the sourcing side, because of course we would love to use recycled content in our product, but at the same time we want to have our product to be the feedstock of the future, for the recycling industry, right? So. As part of the closed loop, of course, we are both supplier and purchaser of the polymer cycle in the future. And the reason why we're using recycled content at this point is that for the polyamide 6, we have a great partner in Italy. They're called Aquafil. They already depolymerized PA6 for already many years and have scaled that up to a very competitive level. And by being able to have a higher percentage of recycled content, of course, we have a commercial advantage versus others in the market who offer carpet only from virgin content.
Yep.
So that's the reason why we have already started sourcing that recycled content already more than 10 years ago. As said, the purchasing side is one side, the other side making sure that in the end our output will be recycled at the end of life. That's obviously a much more complicated thing for the future. And, well, hope to collaborate with the recyclers to make that happen.
But obviously you have customers who have an awareness for sustainability and want to invest in such circular carpet products. So that leads me to the topic that let's talk a little bit about not exact prices, that's clear, but in relation, there's always the topic virgin is cheaper than recyclates, true for mechanical, chemical, and so on. Are you content with? I'm assume you pay a price up for your material, and obviously your customers are also ready to pay it. That is not given in all businesses. That makes it more difficult for the others. But in your business it works. So it is more expensive, but you can cover it with the right pricing for your customers.
Well, actually, we decided to keep our price on par. So our product in the market
Yep.
is still at the same price as our old generation product.
Yeah.
The cost price per square meter, because that's our metric, right? The cost price per square meter is significantly higher, and that's not only due to the higher cost of recycled content, but also due to the fact that we remove all kind of cheap fillers in the product and we replace them by high quality polymers. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we replace calcium carbonate, for instance, by polyester in the backing, which is obviously more expensive. Now we're lucky, we are serving a market directly to architects and designers who find this storyline very attractive and who are indeed willing and interested in this business model. And that gives us the opportunity to grow market share and grow business. So for us, it's not the margin per square meter, because that goes down, but we want to sell more volume into the market because we have a unique proposition.
Okay, so
That's how it works for us.
that looks great. I think that is good for an applause. So that is at least one business we know that's running. So yeah,
Maybe one comment on the economics, because this, of course, is a big concern, because we are a high-end player,
Yeah.
and due to those bad economics, this will stay a niche. And I think for all of us, we want to make this mainstream, this model. So it's clear that the whole economics also needs to be stimulated from a regulatory point of view, because otherwise, well, I don't think it will fly. I'm also curious about the opinion of the others here. But as you said, recycled content will always be more expensive than virgin, and we need to stimulate it, otherwise the business case will be very hard to achieve.
Yeah. So that leads me to another topic that is also often in discussion, that is the competition, Saskia, between mechanical recycling and chemical recycling. Eastman is expert in virgin, but also in mechanical and chemical recycled PET, at least in the chemical recycled PET in the US. What is your answer if people say, okay, we can particular PET bottles that are coming from beverages, we can mechanically recycle, we don't need chemical recycling. Is this true, or what is your position from your side?
Yeah, so I think one thing we've already heard across the board is that anyone who is in chemical recycling is not particularly interested in material that is easily mechanically recycled. So I think when we're picking our feedstock, we're looking at material that a mechanical recycler could not easily recycle. We even have partnerships with recyclers who sort out the stuff that they can't recycle, or in mechanical recycling, you also have a purge process, and the purge that comes out of the machines is something that usually gets incinerated or gets put into landfill, depending on the region where you're at. So that's material that we are more than happy to take, because that's a very high polyester percentage in there, and we're able to recycle that. So I think in terms of what we are fighting for, I don't think we're really fighting for the same feedstock. I think we all agree that the best way to recycle a clear or a light blue bottle is by using a mechanical recycled process. Where we think we can also complement mechanical recyclers is a lot of times, if you want to have a food grade material, you need to have 95% food grade material that goes into your process. And right now that's only for PET. But the demand for food grade PET is much higher than food grade recycled PET is a lot higher than what's existing today. So I think that's where we feel that we can help, that we actually take material that's not food grade today, we recycle it and in a way upcycle it to a food grade, or like I said earlier, cosmetic or health product. So from that side, I think we are actually quite compatible. And in general, if you also look at how much plastics we use, even if you add, I know we're all recycling different materials, but if you add the capacity that's currently existing of chemical recycling, and you compare it to how much plastics is being used today, there's no way that we would ever want to replace mechanical recycling.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Talking about mass, you are in a mass market, of course, with your material, and Christian wants to have bigger volumes. You have an investment project to even increase the volumes from your plant in Ennigerlohe at a different site here in North Rhine-Westphalia. Can you tell us about that?
Maybe I don't want you to tell you about that.
Okay.
No, it's No, we have the logical way is to do a first industrial application after you have run successfully a pilot unit. And other than the guys from LyondellBasell, we do small steps. We have designed a project that has been accepted by the government of North Rhine-Westphalia and will be realized due to the a site deal we still have to make at the chemical park in Dormagen, Chem Park in Dormagen. And it will have a capacity of 10,000 tons in first line. There is space for another 3 of these modules, but it will be a modular concept. We will start with 10,000 tons, and I think this is it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And stepping up to you, Daniel, with your project. Do you think do you plan a global rollout of the concept? As I know, LyondellBasell is already in sorting and, let's say, preparing and also collecting plastic waste just to have a feedstock for your plant. What is the plan there? Are already any plans for expansion?
Yeah, so as you said, we invested as well in sorting facilities, really highly developed sorting, where we get fractions for mechanical recycling and then also for our MoReTec technology. The plant in Wesseling that we are at the moment building, and we will start it up, we call it MoReTec 1, and that implies that there's the idea of a MoReTec 2 plant. That will be an investment most likely in Houston, Texas, because you not only need market demand, you also need asset base. And in Houston, we also have cracker base, refinery base. So we have a MoReTec 2 plant in mind. That plant will be even bigger than what we are building in Wesseling. It will be at least 100,000 tons, so much bigger than what we have. That project is at the moment on hold, yeah, for 2 reasons mainly. The first one is not a big surprise. Economy in plastics industry is not going that well, so we want to observe market a little bit longer. And the second reason is that gives us an opportunity to learn from MoReTec 1 when we build it and we operate it in the first couple of months, how we can make MoReTec 2 even better, and then we will restart this project. But the strategic direction for LyondellBasell is pretty clear. That's the technology of our future. It will give us a competitive edge, and we will build the next plant even bigger. I'm the site manager of Wesseling. There's no concrete plans, but of course I'm hoping that MoReTec 3 will come back to Germany again.
Okay, thank you very much. Nico, you have already contact to chemical recyclers. What is your expectation as a customer on quality, on whatever logistics? What are the parameters that you expect from a chemical recycler delivering material to you?
There are many ways how we can cooperate. I think one point which is very important is the whole lobbying for more favorable legislation, where we need to work together as an industry to really in Brussels make a point about circular economy, because if we're really serious, something needs to change. So I think on the regulatory side, well, we can help each other. Technically, of course, we like our carpet to be fed back into recycle loops in the future. And then, well, these guys here, or ladies, they need to tell us what kind of tolerance their process can accept. Yeah, because in any product there will always be some contamination, some additives. What are the go and the no-goes for a product? So that kind of tolerance level needs to be as explicit as possible. And the third one is, if you compare technologies, of course, for us it's difficult to assess who's going to be the winner of the future. But we would like to have a glance about the yields, about the energy usage, the carbon footprint calculations, to have a feel indeed how much savings do you really realize by closing that loop via technology A versus technology B. So some comparison of the various technologies externally audited is very helpful for us to better understand what are the options available at all.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That is that it brings us to a very important round for the last 12 minutes. That is round on EU regulation and what keeps us away from, let's say, investing even more. So I would like to start with you. If I had a look in the preparation on the website of Eastman, I saw that there is a plant that has been announced in the past, 200,000 tons in France. That could deliver a lot of chemical recycled PET to the European market. I think needed from one side, but on the other hand, it was mentioned there that the project is paused, to use the word that you had on your side, because Eastman is waiting for the right EU regulatory discussions regarding plastic waste and plastic packaging. Can you give us a little bit more insight in that topic?
Yeah, happy to. So I also have a bit of a cheat sheet here because we think this is a really important project that we need to get right. So when we were looking at Europe before we started off with these plans, we saw indications that the European regulation was in favor of reducing the packaging waste in Europe. So we have the SUPD, we have PPWR, both legislations that should be in favor of the type of technologies we're talking about today. But when you look at the regulations, the way they've been adjusted, it's still not clear if chemical recycled material is going to count towards recycled content. So what we're asking for is clear recycled content rules, ideally preferably from regional waste. It doesn't make a lot of sense to us that we would import recycled content or recycled PET, for example, from abroad if our main purpose is to reduce the plastic waste in the EU. So we are really advocating for regionality, which is also why our managing director for Europe is not on the stage today, because he's actually in Brussels today. So that's why you got me. Then we're also advocating for independent verification and chain of custody requirements. We're basically asking that the material that is being used in the European Union, we all follow the same rules when it comes to how do we verify that this is actually recycled content and that it has come from post-consumer recycled content, etc. Then the other thing are harmonized standards and a streamlined approval pathway. Right now, if you're looking at the SUPD, for example, there is a directive, but then how that is being implemented, different countries can still decide for themselves, which also makes it really difficult for brands, for customers of ours to decide what material they should be choosing. And then finally, two more points. We're also aiming for a level playing field. That means that there should be trade-compatible measures to improve traceability. I think we're just a little bit afraid that if we're just opening the gates to imports from all over the world, the traceability and really the reason why we're advocating for these regulations is going to get a bit lost. And then finally, and I'd be interested to hear the rest of this group on this as well, there might be a need for transitional time-limited incentives or support mechanisms. If we're looking at the European Union right now, there's so many mechanical recyclers that are also struggling. And I don't think that should be the path forward. Like we need mechanical recyclers, like I said earlier, to actually manage the waste that we are producing in Europe. And so there might be a need for, like we said, temporary transitional incentives like potential tax breaks or energy relief measures, potential grants or bonuses. I think a really nice example of what that could potentially look like has just happened in France, where they've basically set a radius of, I think, 1,500 kilometers from France that the post-consumer recycled content that's going to count towards the French recycled content goals needs to come from that radius. So that is an example of how we could actually support mechanical and chemical recyclers in Europe in the future.
Thank you very much. It was very comprehensive. Let's see if there are some leftovers for your partners here on the panel. Christian, do you have further wishes, or can even choose one who you would emphasize in particular?
No, I think everything was perfect. But we are at a barrier or at a frontier between waste industries and chemical industries. Both are highly regulated. Waste industries is totally different than chemical industries. Waste industries is service oriented. They have to deal with the waste every day, not caring for products at all, not caring for quality of products. They care for quality of services. And chemical industry does rely on feedstock materials and on feedstock documentation that is according to REACH, so that any product can be defined. Bridging waste industry and chemical industry is a nightmare. And you're always at the risk of getting arrested when you label a container of material not a liquid waste but a liquid product. So end of waste is a key. There are millions of regulations, and I would only want to final with it has to be less regulation and it has to be more easy, and we need level playing fields, so that we get the chance to develop the technologies and the value chains that are needed to close that loop. And when I talk to companies like Eastman or like Lyondell, and there are more lobbying people that I have employees, this is a discussion I cannot take. So it's a question of make it easy, make it quick, and let's start it at least, and give it a risk or give it a chance. Not trying to prohibit anything. A discussion between mechanical and chemical recycling is nuts. Yeah, it's a German discussion and it's not an international discussion. We have to choose the most efficient recycling technology that is to be applied for a certain purpose, and we have to come up with a solution to have as much material as possible in the loop.
Thank you, Christian. Daniel, so there was applause. Somebody want to give applause for that? Okay, good. So feel free. It's good if there is some reaction from you as the audience. Daniel, I would like to add a little bit on the question, because you have some other regulatory stuffs maybe in mind that were on top. You are also running a global company, or you are in a global company, and there is one discussion. Beside that, we have difficulties struggling with selling recyclates. People in Europe, there is a high demand for recyclates due to, for example, the PPWR and end-of-life vehicle regulation, whatever. But on the other hand, people are afraid that if there is a demand in Europe, this demand might be served from Asia, for example, as Asia has also, in particular China, has also a big recycling industry. So if I open the scope for your regulatory wishes a little bit in that direction, what do you think, what could be done also to keep the progress in Europe without, of course, we want to have a market economy, global market economy without protection, too much protection mechanism. Where is the solution from your point of view? And we all take notes, because that is then the solution maybe for our politicians as well. So, Daniel.
I don't know if I have a solution yet. I mean, I understand this concern. As I said in the beginning, we are undersupplied and we have more demand than we actually can serve. And in Asia, particularly China, maybe there are overcapacities. I think we should be more confident in Europe about our strengths as well. I mean, I lived and worked in different places of the world, also in Asia, for more than 8 years. We have a very strong collection system for plastic waste here and sorting facilities in Europe. So that's one requirement we need for recycling industry, much better than a lot of countries in Asia. The second thing is, I mean, the purpose of recycled content and sustainable material is you want to do something good for environment, and also CO2 footprint is important. If you now start shipping materials from Asia, for example, to Europe to serve customers here, it's adding additional CO2 footprint to those products. Customers don't want that. Another one, we feel that when we talk to customers, at the end, they also enjoy proximity to supply, because it gives you security in your supply chain. yes, you can get your sourcing from Asia, but then you have to risk that maybe the ship with your material just got stuck somewhere in the Suez Canal, for example. So proximity to customers is important because it gives also supply security. And if I take all those factors, which are not regulatories, it should give us enough power and competitive advantage that we can develop a sustainable industry here also in Europe. And that's why we are building also this plant. Otherwise, if we would not believe in that, we would not invest.
Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience, please?